conversation around backing up your iPad. So not as fun maybe as the last two topics, looking at new tools and fun things to do in the class, but hopefully still helpful and essential for you to think about, especially we thought at the end of the semester, this would be a good topic to kind of refresh how we talked about this a little bit during the training that we did over the summer. And a question came up at our last Appy Hour around, kind of best practices for backing up the iPad. So I just want to walk you through a couple options and settings to take a look at. The first thing to think about really is the difference between backing up your device and then your document storage and backing up your documents. And the difference I mean there is that if you were to lose your iPad breaks, is, like not repairable, and we would need to restore your iPad from backup, that means all the settings on your iPad, all the apps that you have downloaded, the way you've got everything configured the way you like, the positioning of everything, all of that stuff is like a full device backup would need to be available to recover your iPad to that level. That type of backup is a little different than just backing up your documents and where you store your documents and where those documents might be recovered from. So the only way on an iPad to do the full device backup, again, recovering all of those settings, is really through iCloud, because it's an Apple device and your iCloud account is connected with your iCloud backup. And that's where that full device recovery comes from. That is not available in any other way. You can't do that by backing up to Google Drive or something else like that. It's really only through your iCloud. So, if that piece is important to you, the best practice is to really make sure that you do have your iPad set up. I just went into the settings app, make sure you are logged in with your Apple ID so that it is connected with your iCloud account. I think, 99% are, but sometimes I still work with a faculty. I see somebody that's not logged in with their Apple ID there. And then once you are logged in with your Apple ID, when you click on your name in the settings, you've got your iCloud option here in the middle. Oh, look at that. I can kind of show you my cursor. So, and when you click on iCloud, so at the top here, you can see the amount of storage that you're using. And then you can see what apps you actually have on your iPad that are backing up to that iCloud storage. But some of this, again, will be not just the actual documents, but the actual recovery of those settings. So again, if that's important to you, you want to make sure that this iCloud backup is on. And it really should be by default. You can check in your own settings just to make sure, but it probably is by default. Now, the thing we need to talk about here is that, remember, your iCloud account is a personal account, right? It is not a Fisher owned or monitored account. It's your own Apple ID that is just for you personally. You can see mine's connected with 50 gigs. That's how much I pay for in my iCloud backup. I'm actually not sure what the level is at the free level. I know for me, is it 5 gigs, Chad? Okay. So 5 gigs is the free iCloud level. I pay personally 99 cents a month and get the additional up to that 50 gig. There's some people who do this like with a family plan, especially if you're, connected with multiple other devices. And I think it goes up to $2.99 or $3.99 a month, something like that, with a, bigger set of storage, but you can also share over across multiple people. So the key here is that this is really a personal choice as far as how you want to back up this material and how much storage space you want and need. But again, this is the only way to ensure that you can do a full device recovery if that was needed. Okay. So before we move on to the kind of more document storage backup, are there any questions on this? Yeah.
So for that full device recovery, you need to go down and make sure that you've got the iCloud backup. Like I was looking down at mine, so I may have missed it. No, back in there, go to iCloud and then scroll down. iCloud backup is the one, right?
Oh, yes.
That needs to say on. And that's the one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, sorry, you're right. So that level of it, basically, because you can turn any of these on or off, but that specific level of it would get that piece of like the actual settings and device configuration. Yeah.
I feel like that one should be at the top.
Right. And I think it's just on, again, I think it's just on by default, but yes.
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah.
And I do have that family storage plan, by the way. And it just, like with the kids' iPads, like it helps so much because they don't run out of space. I will warn you though, that one of the things I've discovered with all this backing up for the photos is you have to empty the trash in the photos every once in a
Yeah.
Otherwise it'll take up a lot of space on device space. So
Yeah, and you can
anyway.
see, just based on what you're using, what it is that's taking up most of your storage space. And I think for almost all of us, if not 100% of us, it is probably photos and videos, right? One, because we walk around with these devices now, in our pocket, it's just so much easier. We have that many more photos, but they're also large file sizes. So obviously those, types of documents are going to take up more space than some of the other, documents you might have.
We were talking about what we discussed when we were going over the backup options and what's available. And one of the things we talked about mentioning was, if you don't want to pay extra storage, for most people, most of your storage, like Katie's is a great example. Pictures take up a lot of room. Documents and spreadsheets don't. So it's usually pictures that fill up people's iCloud storage space. And we were going to, just put it out there. There is a free option with Google that it will back up all your photos. It's unlimited and free. And 3 days ago, that was the case. But Google just announced that there is no free lunch anymore. Every cloud storage provider charges now. So there's just no way around it, even Google. Google's giving us some time. So anything that you put up into Google, if you use it now, if you use Google Photos now, and anything you back up before June 1st of next year will not count towards your total Google Drive storage, just after June 1st of next year. So if you do use Google Photos to save your space and not purchase additional storage through iCloud, you're going to have to revisit that probably soon. Google estimates that it'll take most users about 3 years to save 15 gigs worth of photos. And Google's free storage is 15 gigs, not 5, so you get a little bit more. But it includes everything: Google Drive, photos, the whole works, everything on your Google Life. So,
really
that free
big
option just
attachments.
isn't there.
Like that also includes really big attachments that you've forgotten about inside your Gmail.
100%. Yes. So, that's just what it boils down to: is everyone eventually will have to pay for this. Google has lured us in with the free photo storage for so long, and now they're getting us for the cost. Yeah. So just wanted to put that out there.
Chad, are they indicating how much they'll charge a year from now?
Yeah, it is. It's $2 a month for 100 gigs. So it's still very inexpensive, and it's a one-time $24 bill. You don't have to worry about your storage for a year. I'll be doing it as soon as I have the luxury of having a Pixel phone. If you have a Pixel phone, any pictures from your Pixel still won't count towards your total. So I can wait a little longer, but all of us will have to pay for storage eventually.
And I back up now. So you can also, what's nice about Google Photos, you can automatically back up all your iCloud photos directly to Google Photos. So it's not like a process you have to go in and do, it just automatically happens. The key is that if you want to maximize that based on your iCloud storage, then you actually have to delete them off of your iCloud, right? Which I like to walk around with my pictures of my kids on my phone. So I don't want to necessarily delete them. I use it more just as a kind of redundancy backup. But I could do that if I needed to. But Google is really great about backing up all of that stuff in a really automatic way, so you don't have to worry about it every time you connect to Wi-Fi, or you can do it over data, but most of the time connect to Wi-Fi, those things will just sync up and the backups will happen. Okay, so that's kind of your iCloud backup, and then talking a little bit about photos and managing those photos. The other piece that we want to talk about is, really, it's a little bit more really about file management. So I just opened up the Files app. You can see on the left over here, I've got on my iPad, not a lot, hardly anything. Probably documents I need to sign and open and send back, and that's the only thing I keep there, right? Because anything I save on my iPad like that is using the storage space directly on my iPad, and it is not going to be backed up. Or is only going to be backed up in that iCloud drive. So most of what I do would be saved on my iCloud drive directly, or most of, especially my Fisher related stuff, is, saved on Google Drive. Obviously, because we are connected, our Google Drive is connected with our Fisher accounts, that is an unlimited storage space. Whereas iCloud Drive, again, I've only got 5 gigs of storage there. Remember, the 50 gigs that I pay for, well, actually, maybe I'm confusing this. Maybe it is the 50 gigs I pay for covers all of it. I guess I only attribute it in my mind to because I need it for a lot of photos, but it probably would be for all of these documents. But again, I have to pay for that. And once I hit that maximum, I'm going to have to pay more. So most of what I save, especially, work-related activities, it's just Google Drive because I do have unlimited storage there. So this isn't necessarily a backing up technique. It's just more of a file management technique so that you know already where you're putting the documents is in the cloud. And therefore, if I were to drop my iPad, if I were to lose it, if it would completely break, I'm not going to lose any of the documents that are stored in a cloud location, right? Whether it be iCloud Drive or Google Drive, compared to the documents that I do save directly on the device could potentially just be lost, right? So that's, just kind of the management of those things there and keeping track of where best to save those documents. Obviously, another huge benefit is the fact that if you're not just working on your iPad, which most of us aren't, we've got another computer that we're also using, that you can access those documents, across all the devices you have access to easily, instead of trying to remember, oh, I saved this one over here, I put that one over here. Okay. So document management is, to me, more about where do you put it to begin with, rather, than the backup piece itself. And then the other piece we wanted to show you was Notability. Obviously, this is a big tool that we're also using, and there's, ends up being a lot of documents and resources in here. So what you want to make sure also in Notability is that you're thinking about how are you backing up these Notability notes. So the little gear icon here in the lower left, over here on the left, and then you've got this auto backup option. And so you probably want to set that up to auto backup as well to Google Drive, again, because we have that unlimited storage space there. This will then create a folder called Notability right at the root of your Google Drive folder. And all of your subjects or all of these headings you have over here on the left will just end up being folders inside of that Notability folder. And then all of the notes will end up being documents inside of there. You can choose also the file format that you want those notes to save in. Obviously, if you want to keep using them as Notability notes, you need to save them in a note file format. But if you are okay with these backups being just straight PDF at this point, remember that would lose anything, especially like the voice that you might be adding on Notability notes. If it was just a straight PDF, be careful. This could be the PDF and the recording. But what would happen here is that's actually two files, right? A PDF file and a audio file rather than an integrated note file. So you want to think about how best you want to back those things up. Yeah, Melissa, you have a question?
Yeah, I was just trying to do the Notability settings while you were talking through it. And I was going to set it to go to Google Drive, and it asked me to sign in.
Mm-hmm.
So would that be my Fisher account?
That's your Fisher account. Yep. So you're connecting your Notability app with your Fisher Google Drive access. Yep.
Okay.
And you only have to do that once. And then once you set it up, it's just, going to automatically back up. Okay. You can also choose here, if there's certain subjects you don't want to back up to Google Drive, you can uncheck some of these if you don't want to back them up. But obviously, most of the time, a backup is to make sure that, again, if something were to happen, you don't lose any of those documents. So you probably want all of it.
So the one thing that I've been playing around with this a little bit, and one thing that I've discovered too is that, and I talked about this last Appy Hour, like you can use this setting to make like a PDF version of your notes. Because if you go in there and you like choose your file format and change it to PDF, and then actually you can select the destination as a different folder temporarily, and then tell it to back up now, and it'll go through and make a PDF copy for you, right? And then if you go back in and then reset it to just back up your notes in the original destination, you can kind of use it to do like an auto or a manual, dump of your files rather than going in and saving lots of notes as PDF. So this is when we talked about the grading last time. If you did grade stuff in Notability, you could then do a dump using the backup setting with a little manual like finagling to like make a set of PDFs to share back with your students. Which, I mean, it may be a little bit more finagling than people are comfortable with, but and then I actually have a question then too. So like there's also the iCloud setting here, right? And I've found with the iCloud syncing is that it tends to offload some of my notes automatically, and then it's got to like bring them back from the cloud. And sometimes that takes a long time, or at least longer than I'm happy with. So have you thought about that? Like I tend to actually just turn it off. That said, that is the best backup, like for like when I reset Notability one time and I tried to back up from the Google Drive, you actually have to recreate all your structure with your like folders and stuff like that, and that was not fun.
So So to me, the reason that this is really important and why I still keep this turned on, because one, it is using then some of that iCloud storage space, which is the space that I don't have unlimited, right? So I've got to pay for that and I've got to manage that. But the reason that I use it is because I use Notability across multiple devices. So I do have Notability on my Mac. I do have Notability on my phone if I need it. And if you want to be able to see the notes that you've created across all of those devices, this is the syncing. More than backing up, this is the syncing that you have to use for that to happen really efficiently. Whereas you're right, if you wanted to access these things from your Google Drive folder or from Notability, but just through the backup, you would have to be creating those on each device to kind of mimic the structure, and it probably would not be very efficient.
Okay.
But this is another form of backing up as well, because you are storing them in the cloud. My recommendation would be, just not to rely on that only. I would also use one of the auto backup features to ensure you still have the resource. And again, I know some faculty use Dropbox and they like Dropbox and you pay for Dropbox separately. Again, that's not something that Fisher supports or gives the unlimited storage for, but if you would prefer, and that's how you manage your files anyway, you could do the same type of backup with your Dropbox account.
Do you know, can you like pin a note that you might use a lot that to get it so that it doesn't, because I'm not doing it across multiple devices, at least not yet. Is it like, since that it doesn't, like if it's a big note, and maybe I'm adding too much to one note and I should break them up a little bit more.
Yeah, I haven't seen the problem. I mean, I do have to download them from, like, if I go to open it on my phone, it will give me the little cloud icon, and then I've got to download it before I can actually open it and see it.
Mhm.
Because you're right, they all basically live in the cloud and you only access it on the device you're using it from. But I haven't had any that have taken an exceptional amount of time. So it may just be what's in that specific note if there's a ton in there.
Mhm. Okay.
And remember, those drawings are basically, those are also pretty big files to capture, the actual notes that you're taking. They're basically ending up into image files or even, animation files as it would play it back. So they're pretty big files.
It's probably all the handwriting that's killing me.
Yeah.
I think the most important thing about the Notability backup is that it is not on by default. So, and we had one catastrophic case of a student losing quite a bit of notes when I forget what happened with their iPad, but they had not backed up their Notability notes. So that'll be front and center on a one pager when we do the rollout to the students, is making that fact very, very prominent, that they need to turn that on right away.
Yeah, the default here is always just backup off completely. So it's, making sure you go in and turn it on to whatever setting you want it to be on. I think that's all, Chad. Was there anything else you wanted to share?
No, those are the two big things. Just, getting in the habit of saving to a cloud location, then you don't have to worry about any document loss if in between iCloud backups, and changing the Notability setting. I think that's it.